Hello students, today we will be learning about traffic control officers, and this will be a short, about 15 to 20-minute lesson that we will do. Our agenda is posted here, so first we're going to go through an introduction together, then we're going to watch a very short video, then we're going to listen to our guest speaker who is a police officer with the Sparta Police Department. We're going to do a group demonstration, and we're going to go over our parking lot and exit ticket. Now, if you look at your table or your desk, then you'll see that there's a sticky note on your desk. That sticky note is blank. That is there to be your parking lot. Now, if we are going through class today and you have a question, I want you to take your pencil or your pen and write your question on your sticky note, and we're going to come back to it at the end of class so that way we can go over it together, and maybe we'll eventually get through all of the stuff that we need to learn, and that might answer your question anyway. So we're not going to take time to raise hands and answer questions today. We're going to write them on our parking lot, and then at the end of class, we'll do the exit ticket to make sure that we've learned everything that we need to know. So today you're going to be learning two things. One, you will understand the reasons that a traffic officer might be controlling traffic, and another one, you will know what the proper procedure is when you approach a traffic officer. These things are important because sometimes there might be an emergency or something going on where there's an officer actually controlling traffic instead of a typical traffic light or such like that. So let's all talk as a class together, and let's discuss, when do you think an officer might need to direct traffic? I'm going to let you think, pair, share. So I want you to think about it, talk to the person beside you, and then share with another group around you. And if you think in a few minutes that you have a great idea as to why or when an officer might need to direct traffic, you'll share with the group. Okay, that was a great discussion that we had. So we're going to go ahead and move on so we can learn about when we think officers might need to direct traffic. We're going to watch this short YouTube video where there are these two officers at a very busy intersection who are directing traffic. And there you can see there's two lanes of traffic on each side of the road, and there's a turning lane. So these officers are trying to direct traffic at this very busy intersection. And you'll see them use different hand gestures, and you'll see them use their directing stick and their hands at different points in time. And I want you to pay close attention to why you think that they're using these different gestures and what they mean as you watch for this 2-minute video as the officers tell the cars which way to go. And this is a very busy intersection, you can tell, because there's multiple businesses around. So this would be like driving in a city. Like the closest city I could think of for us would be probably Winston-Salem. Driving in downtown Winston-Salem or something, and you would have to have an officer controlling traffic because maybe the traffic light isn't working, or maybe there was a wreck. So we're going to watch this short video, and then we're going to continue our discussion. Okay, students, can anyone tell me a couple of things that they saw that they thought was important in this video? Yes, you are right. There was a lot of cars coming, and this officer and the other officer had to do the best that they could to make sure that the traffic continued to move smoothly without anybody wrecking or any more potential hazards. Now we're going to let our guest speaker, who is a police officer at Sparta Police Department, share a couple things with you about how to approach a traffic control officer when they're directing traffic, what to pay attention to when an officer is directing traffic, what do the hand gestures mean, and he will answer any specific questions that you have for him, or you can write them on your parking lot. sticky note.
I do not actually have an officer in my classroom today, but my husband is a police officer, so I plan on hopefully allowing him to come into my classroom at least 1 or 2 lessons out of my entire class that I have with each group of students. And so I do not have him for the purpose of this mini lesson assignment, but I would go over with him beforehand what exactly I wanted him to cover. And one of those things would be the hand gestures specifically, like, come or stop or like go this way, you know what I mean? But that is my plan for this lesson in particular. So I wanted to take a moment and explain that to you guys since I don't have a guest speaker per se right now for this lesson. But normally I would take at least, 10 minutes ish of this lesson just to let an officer go over with the students the importance of being careful around officers and being aware of their surroundings and understanding their hand gestures. So I wanted to point that out.
So now we're going to go into an activity. And for this activity, I'm going to need at least 10 volunteers. So if you would like to volunteer, please come to the front of the classroom and we're going to get started.
Activity, I plan on having the officer who would be in on this lesson or myself if for some reason I didn't have an officer, but the plan is to have an officer. So having the officer in the middle of the room and lining up the students as if they were traveling in 2 lanes of traffic here and then like here at an intersection like what was seen in our video. And then I would tell the students beforehand quietly which way that they would be traveling. So if I had a student in a turning lane, I would be like, you are turning in left to this turning lane. And each student would know. So that's why I have about 10 students, because I need like at least 2, 4, 6, 8, and then a couple in turning lanes. And so I would let them know, okay, you are going to go straight through this intersection, or you're going to come up to the light and turn right, or, basically I would let them know which direction of travel they are in. Then I would or the officer would stand in the middle of the intersection as if you were coming up on an intersection with a traffic control officer in it, and we would direct the students, tell them to stop, tell them to come, tell them to turn, the different gestures to check their knowledge or check their understanding of their gestures, and to let them know that sometimes it can be confusing, to let them know the importance of understanding those gestures. So this is a physical way to demonstrate the knowledge that they're learning about traffic control and about traffic control officers and their jobs.
Okay, now everyone can return to their seats. And remember, you have a sticky note in front of you. That is your parking lot. So if you have any questions whatsoever, since we just went over this activity, if you have any questions for the officer or for me, please go ahead and write them on your sticky note so that we can go over them together as a class. So that is going to briefly wrap up our lesson. So let's go ahead and go over this together. Are there any questions from your parking lots? Okay, so everybody, Susie wants to know what could happen if she continued driving without following the directions of a traffic control officer. So let's say, for example, the traffic officer is telling Susie to stop, and they have their hand out like this, and Susie is coming in the direction of traffic over here and continues driving and doesn't listen to the stop. What are some things that you guys think could happen if Susie continues in her lane of travel straight through the intersection as the officer is saying stop? Right. There could be a collision, or Susie could hit the officers, because sometimes officers stand in lanes of travel when they direct traffic. Or Susie could cause a collision, or Susie could get hurt, right? Because the officer could be stopping Susie from a potential hazard behind the officer that, the officer doesn't want her to come into a collision with? So that is a very good question, Susie. So now we all know that even if the officer is standing there, what if the light on top of the officer's head is green, but he's saying, Susie, stop, stop. Is it okay for Susie to keep going because the light is green? No, that is not okay for Susie to keep going because the light is green. If there is a traffic officer, who do we listen to? Do we listen to the light or do we listen to the officer? You are right, we listen to the officer. Anytime a traffic officer is present, we listen to them. Okay, students, now we will go over our exit ticket. We will take a water break and we'll move on to our next lesson with officer, where we will learn about what to do if an officer pulls you over. So here are our exit ticket questions. I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to pass everyone out an exit ticket slip. I'm going to read the questions aloud to you. You're going to answer them and turn them in on my desk as you walk out to take your water break. Our water break will be 5 minutes long, and then after our water break, we will continue on to our next lesson with the officer guest speaker. And now I'm passing out exit tickets. Okay, class, number 1 says, rate your understanding of what to do when you encounter a traffic officer, 1 to 5. 1 being that you do not understand, and 5 being that you know it and could do it if you had your license. Number 2 says you are driving up to an intersection. The light is green, but you see an officer in a yellow vest directing traffic. He tells you to stop, but the light is green. What do you do and why? Number 3, if somebody asks you what to do if they see an officer in a yellow vest, what would you say? Number 4, Officer blank, help me learn about what traffic officers do, yes or no? And number 5, if you made a TikTok about officers directing traffic, what is the most important tip you would give your followers? Now remember, you have to answer all 5 questions on the exit ticket, put it on my desk, and go get some water. You have a 5-minute break.
The exit ticket is what I would use to conclude my mini lesson about traffic officers. During this lesson, the students have gone over, they've visually been able to watch a 2-minute video of traffic officers directing traffic. They have physically been able to participate as pretend drivers at an intersection with a traffic officer in the middle. So they've got to see the demonstration and or do the demonstration as well as watch the visual activity. We've had multiple discussions about what to do at an intersection in different scenarios and who to listen to, traffic officers versus traffic lights if the light is working. And so the main purpose of this lesson was to teach students about traffic officers and their jobs and how important they are to our safety sometimes when they're having to direct traffic and reasons that they might have to direct traffic. And I would use that exit ticket and the answers that I would go over during that 5-minute break. I would just, skim through those 5 questions that each student answered. And I would determine at the end of that 5 minutes if we need to spend another, 15, 20 minutes talking about traffic officers, or if the students have pretty much got it down. And we would also understand that based off of the activity that they do. Are they able to follow directions that an officer is giving them or I'm giving them, hand signals? Do they understand the hand signals? Are they able to follow those basic, prompts? And then based off of the exit ticket and their participation in the activity, I would determine, do we go ahead and move on with the next lesson, which is going over, what to do if an officer pulls us over. And the reason that I did that as the next lesson is because we already have an officer guest speaker, so we might as well go ahead and use that officer guest speaker, right? And go ahead and cover what to do if an officer pulls you over.